been interested in diabetes since my father was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes when I was a little girl. As well, my brother is also a type 2 diabetic. So I've always been fascinated by the effect of food on diabetes and if it can actually lessen the symptoms. Can it actually stop us becoming a type 2 diabetic, lower our A1C down to more manageable levels? I want to talk about the Glycemic Index Diet. It's a very interesting diet, and what's fascinating to me is that it's really very much in the news, although it was developed in 1981 by Dr. David Jenkins, who was a professor at the University of Toronto. Yay, U of T. The Glycemic Index Diet and the Glycemic Index itself was developed really for diabetics in order to manage their food and to be able to gauge which foods were better suited for them, their diet, their lifestyle, and their blood glucose levels. Interestingly, kind of like a lot of off-label things around the world, that one thing was developed for something and it turned out that other people could actually benefit from it. Kind of like Viagra. Do you know that when my husband Paul went to Mount Everest, they actually were prescribing Viagra for altitude sickness. It has to do with the blood dilation. And in the same way, the GI diet also was born because of the fact that people were losing weight, people's blood pressures were lowered, their cholesterol levels were lowered, all because of the food choices. So let's talk about the glycemic index itself. What is it? Well, it is a scale. It is a ranking scale from 0 to 100, and all of the foods rank in there. So 100 would be high glycemic index, which is really pure glucose, or the food equivalent is white bread, plain old white bread, because your body just breaks that down so fast, right to sugar. So we've got the 3 levels, and they are 1 to 55 are considered low GI foods, 56 to 69 are medium foods, and 70 and higher would be high GI foods. The GI diet really emphasizes choosing more foods in the low range. Now, the other interesting thing about the GI diet is the rating system only applies to carbs. Proteins, fats, those are not part of the measurement system, okay? Now, it seems like it should be the easiest diet in the world because all of the foods are ranked. Everything has a number, and all you need to do is pick the low numbers, right? It sounds easy. The frustrating thing is it's the easiest diet, and yet it's mind-boggling confusing. Again, when we're talking about GI diet, what we're trying to look at is these carbs and how fast our body is converting those carbs into glucose. What we want to avoid are these constant spikes. We don't want food that is immediately eaten and broken down, lickety-split, and turned into sugar. Because especially if you're diabetic, you've got issues with your insulin and you have all of this sugar, and that's not what you want. You really want to try to stay on an even keel. So let's talk about different foods now and where they are on the scale. Well, pretty much most vegetables are in the low range. Makes sense. Fruits, apples, pears, really good choices. Those are very low on the GI scale. The only one that they talk about as a very high GI would be watermelon. Dairy, another interesting kind of confusing one, is milk, which has a very low GI. Although full-fat milk can have a low GI, the problem is that it's high in fat and it can be high in calories. And if your goal is to lose or maintain weight, might not be the best choice. Again, nuts. Nuts are good. Cashews and peanuts especially good. Let's talk about some GI swaps. Let's talk about, first of all, oatmeal. All right, so I've got here steel cut oats and I've got the quick oats. The GI of these oats is 79, whereas the GI on the steel cut, 55. Takes longer for your body to go through that. How about carrots? You know what? Raw carrots, 15 on the GI, but cook it, and all of a sudden, 39 plus or minus 4. Might be the same food, but how you eat it or how you prepare it has a lot to do with things. Bread, you know what? We already know 100 on the GI, which is the top worst thing to eat, is white bread. Come on in with the multi-grain rye bread, and you are about 56. So not quite half, but pretty close. Cream of wheat, when I was a little girl, I loved having cream of wheat. Cream of wheat comes in at 66 on the GI index. The oat bran, 55. How about a banana? Like, is a banana a banana a banana?
I'm confused.
Yes, I am.
No, it's not. Here we have our bananas. Bananas actually come in 3 different scales. The very overripe banana would score a 62, which would be on the high side. This one, I guess I call this a medium. This would be 51, and underripe, and actually this is the way I like to eat them, this is 42. So here we've got the same food scoring 3 different ways. How about some crackers? I eat a lot of crispy minis and things like that. But you know what? They really don't fill you up at all. So rice crackers score 82. That's why when you eat it, 5 seconds later, you don't even think you ate anything. A better choice is a multigrain cracker, and that one's gonna come in at around 50. So when I went into this whole swapping thing, I was doing that because I was preparing dinner. And this would be a typical dinner that would be really okay on the GI diet. They don't talk about the proteins or the fats, but you're looking for good fats, healthy proteins. So I'm gonna have salmon tonight. I just put some seasoning on it, and I'm gonna have some zucchini or Brussels sprouts. And these both are 15, and Paul likes zucchini a whole lot more than he likes Brussels sprouts.
Oh,
So I think
yeah.
we're gonna have that. But the more interesting thing is the side dish. So let's look at the side dish, because there is a huge discrepancy when we start talking about rice and grains and things like that. And that's where we can really go off the rails. If you like white rice, white jasmine rice, then I hate to tell you this, but this is the worst, absolute worst one that you can have. It's digested way, way, way too fast. This one scores 80 to 100. It is like top worst rice that you can have. So let's move on better from that. So black rice, I don't know if you've tried this. I actually really quite like this. This is very low, 42, around 42 on the glycemic index, and that's very tasty. The brown rice has a medium GI or glycemic index, 50 to 55. Basmati is much better than the jasmine rice. And then notice this one I've got is added with lentils. Another thing that you can do, and I encourage you to do, if you're going to have just a plain rice, then make it more GI friendly by making it add some beans into it. Some kidney beans are amazing, chickpeas, fantastic. And then you can actually modify your GI score by just adding the beans. Of course, the super food in the whole GI family is barley. And if you haven't watched my What I Eat in a Day, where I made barley risotto with shrimps, please go back and watch that, because it is an excellent recipe. Barley scores really fantastic, 20 to 22 for the pot barley, because again, more coating, less processing. Or the pearl barley, which scores 22 to 29. And you can see how you can just make like some small adjustments here, and you know what, maybe make a big difference. I told you about the low GI items. Lots of fruits, lots of veggies, those barleys and grains and all of those things. What are on the high? What's the high GI things? The things that maybe we're supposed to avoid? Well, there's no surprises here. Pizza, pretzels, chips, fruit yogurt, those are all high on the GI. What could we add to our diet that would maybe slow the digestion process down a little bit? Well, there are a few things that we can do. We can add fiber, because fiber slows things down. So although I eat the quick oats in the morning, and really the steel cut are a better choice, you know, I do add chia seeds and I do add flax seeds as well. Adding food acids to your food, like lemon juice, or vinegar, that also slows the response, as does pickles. Fermented foods also can slow down the response. So kimchi is also very low on the GI, as well as for the fermented food. With bread, the sourdough method is also excellent, way better than the white bread. Fun fact is that pasta cook it al dente. If you cook it al dente, the GI score is much lower than if you let it get mushy, because you're letting all the boiling water do the work that really your gut needs to do. Along with these items, protein and fat also delay our stomach emptying and slow down the absorption of carbs. So, we just have a little bit of a mixed meal. What is the takeaway after all of this? Well, the glycemic index for me is really not a specific diet. It is more of a useful tool that we can all use in order to make better choices. Looking at the GI and looking at these different swaps may help you to lose weight, may help you to lower your blood pressure, and may help you to lower your cholesterol and live healthier. And isn't that what we all want to do? For many years they've been talking about adding the GI number to the nutritional label of all the foods that we're eating. And I think that would really be a great idea, because sometimes it's not really intuitive. And I think that's one of the things about this diet, is that some things make sense. Like, we all know those are high on the GI, because we already know that probably we should avoid them. But you know what? The rices that I went over, that's not exactly intuitive. And the fact that if they could have those numbers, that would make it a whole lot easier for all of us. We're all looking for more tools, more ways to be able to make better choices, because all we're doing all the time is about making choices. And I believe that that is where the glycemic index can help you and me. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. And if you do, give it a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.